the woman that I do the Dennis and Julie podcast with, and who does her own podcast on the Salem Radio Network, Timeless, Julie Hartman, I just learned was there. So I have her on the line.
Hi, Dennis.
Whom did you meet?
Oh, my gosh. The better question is, whom didn't I meet? I met Carrie Lake. All of the candidates I was able to speak with, even if just for a few seconds afterwards. I unfortunately met Governor Gavin Newsom, who was strangely there. I asked him why he was there. We were huddled in a crowd of reporters, and he said, "I'm here to defend the Biden administration." He also said that the Biden administration, both the president and the vice president, asked him to come, which is a bit strange because obviously he wasn't up on the stage. I met Sean Hannity, who's lovely. I spoke with Dana Bash. She was next to me in the spin room. Though I don't agree with her politics, she was also lovely. It was a very fascinating night.
All right, and what did you think of the debate itself?
Frankly, Dennis, I thought a lot of it was embarrassing. There were some really what I would call cringe moments throughout the night. First of all, I thought that the questions were really not great. Dana Perino is under fire for a question that she asked, where she asked the candidates, if there is one of you up here who you would vote off the island, who would you vote to remove from the stage? And to his credit, Governor Ron DeSantis cut in and said, "Come on, this is childish. This is not who we are. Let's talk about issues pertaining to the country." That was a bit of an embarrassing moment. Chris Christie had a joke that I can tell you from sitting in the audience flopped. He said that Donald Trump is behaving so terribly that soon people are going to start calling him Donald Duck. No one laughed at that. In fact, many people cringed at it. And to make matters even weirder, Chris Christie made a joke about how President Biden is, quote, sleeping with a member of a teachers union. I assume that he was referring to Jill Biden, the first lady. I know that she's a professor. I didn't know she was a member of a teachers union. And then former Vice President Mike Pence cuts in and says, "Well, I've been sleeping with a teacher for 38 years, i.e. his own wife, who also I didn't know was a teacher." The point in my telling you this, Dennis, is that there were many of those moments which had nothing to do with the many issues plaguing our country. They were childish, and it just seemed like it was more entertainment and not what it is supposed to be, which is showing the American people their options for the next commander-in-chief.
Did anybody look like a serious presidential individual?
Governor Ron DeSantis was by far the most presidential individual up on that stage. He has a very good way of cutting through the fray and getting to the issues.
Someone who is close to me, whose name I just won't mention, and whose opinion I respect, said the exact same thing, and is not a fan of DeSantis. I happen to think very highly of Ron DeSantis, but that's not the point. I think highly of a number of them, but I certainly do of him. So your opinion seems to have been widespread, and it's not just that person. It was the general consensus of commentators was that Ron DeSantis looked, quote unquote, presidential. When I was disappointed, because I have great respect for Nikki Haley, and I was disappointed at the comment that she made that the more Vivek Ramaswamy speaks, the dumber she becomes. Yeah. How did that line go over?
It didn't. Well, people in the audience chuckled a little bit. I think that there is a growing contingent in the Republican Party that is not too enamored with Vivek. Frankly, I don't quite understand it. I think Vivek is an excellent candidate. I think that the things that he talks about are bold and needed. But yes, that was a really low moment. And the thing, Dennis, that was sad was up until that point, Nikki Haley, I thought, was performing beautifully. I actually tweeted, so far, Nikki Haley is the standout. And then she said that about Vivek. And by the way, the point that she was making, they were talking about why Vivek Ramaswamy was on TikTok. Now, I don't use TikTok because of its ties to the Chinese Communist Party. But Vivek was asked about why he goes on TikTok, and he gave what I thought was a very appropriate answer that we need to win. We need to reach the younger generation in order to combat the Chinese. And if using TikTok is a way to do it, I want to use their own tool against them. And so I just thought Nikki Haley should have respectfully disagreed with that. She said that Vivek should not be using TikTok, but to resort to these personal attacks, it did not make her look good, to your point.
It seems to me that the only person adversely affected by these insults is the person who makes the insult.
Yeah.
Why isn't it obvious to them? Why is it only obvious to us?
That's not just in politics. You're absolutely right.
Also, to use the cliche, if it becomes a circular firing squad, it just benefits the people who are tearing down America, the Democrats.
Absolutely. And most of the night was just the candidates yelling over one another. The format of these debates, I think, needs to be changed a bit, including turning off a person's
Yes,
mic.
no, that's clearly, that is the only way. You can't keep saying your time is up, your time is up. Also, the amount of time, I didn't watch the whole thing because I was in Arizona at ASU, but I did watch a fair amount. And, for example, this extended attack on Vivek Ramaswamy by Nikki Haley, and then finally he gets to respond, and the moderator says you have 15 seconds.
Yes, it was very poorly organized. I will quickly tell you some highlights of some points that the candidates made pertaining to the issues, which is what we should all be focused on after all. I thought Nikki Haley made a good point about China. She said that President Trump had a good policy with China to focus on trade, but that we need to shift our attention to China buying our farmland, establishing the spy base off the base or off of Cuba, the fentanyl crisis. I thought that she was strong on that. Vivek had a great line about victimhood, the epidemic of victimhood in this country. That's where I think he's particularly strong, speaking about the culture issues. And Governor DeSantis, he said this in the last debate, but he reiterated that if he were president, he would go into Mexico, send drones or other weaponry to eliminate the Mexican drug cartels, which he classifies as a terrorist group. So look, despite all of the arguing and the cringy moments, I'm actually excited for the future of the Republican Party because we have some candidates who I think will lead us in a good direction in 2024 and beyond. And I'm not sure the Democratic Party has counterparts like that.
Well, they have Gavin Newsom. I mean, a man of depth.